Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Hinsdale. My name is Pam Romancic. My pronouns are she and theirs. Each of us brings so many different lenses on identities and perspectives to this world, and whatever you bring is welcome here, as we uphold the worth and dignity of every single person. If you are new to the church, you can sign up to receive our publications at the desk in the back, or you can go online to our website, and there's a drop-down menu and a contact form. Go ahead and fill that out. And if you want to skip all that, you can just write to the office, and we will go ahead and hook you up, so you'll get our weekly and monthly publications. We remind everybody, both vaccinated and that we require everybody to be both masked and vaccinated to be in person in the church. Everybody is welcome. If that doesn't feel comfortable, to stay home and watch on YouTube as well. We've stopped printing orders of service to try to save some trees. So we do still create an order of service. If you're here, you can scan our QR code. It's on the doors and on the back desk. If you're at home, you can go to the website, and on the website there's a place just to be a click order of service, so you can follow the order of service for today. Now, there's a lot going on this week. Well, there's a lot going on every week. This week brings our regular Monday meditation, the Tuesday Wise Elders meeting, the nonfiction book club is meeting on Tuesday night as well. And coming up in the spring, we have a couple new offerings. We have a new Spirit and Practice class that is just getting together for anybody who would like to explore the different spiritual paths from a UU perspective. And then the Spiritual Book Club is just beginning to gather to read How I Became a Tree by Sumana Roy. And there will be a sermon writing class on Saturday mornings beginning March 5th. So if you've ever thought, I'd like to write a sermon, go ahead, sign up, come on and join us. It's a lot of fun. There are a lot of other good things going on, so make sure you read your news and notes each week and the touchstone when it comes out. This morning, we'll say thank you, as always, to Jamie Passman, who brings us such beautiful music. And we are welcoming this morning the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin. She's our service leader this morning. Katie currently serves as Associate Minister in the Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church in Bethesda, Maryland. Katie's the mother of 2 young adult children, has been married to a partner, Sean, for over a decade. She hails from a loving, incredibly boisterous, multiracial family that loves to cook and eat. When she's not serving Cedar Lane, she's working as a chaplain for the Civil Air Patrol Parkland Cadet squadron, where she's trained as an emergency disaster chaplain. So we are all set this morning, Reverend Katie, yay! So we are going to start our time together.
Buenos días y bienvenidos. Es un placer conocerles. Los invito a tomar un respiro a medida que entramos en este momento, juntos en la presencia de lo que cada uno considera santo y sagrado.
Good morning and welcome. It is a pleasure to be with you all. I invite you to take a breath as we enter into this moment together in the presence of what we each hold holy and sacred.
Comenzamos nuestro tiempo junto con una versión adaptada de un verso de apertura por el reverendo Fuldgence Ndagijamanna.
We begin our time together with an adapted version of an opening verse by the Reverend Fuldgence Ndagijamanna.
Cuando los extraños se encuentran, surgen infinitas posibilidades, nuevas experiencias, nuevas maneras de entender y nuevas formas de acción.
When strangers meet, endless possibilities emerge, new experiences, new ways of understanding, and new ways of taking action.
Cuando los extraños se encuentran, cada uno presta especial atención al otro.
When strangers meet, each pays special attention to the other.
Cada uno está llamado a servir algo más grande que una sola persona.
Each is called to serve something larger than a single person.
Hoy, esta mañana, comencemos nuestro tiempo junto con la apertura, la voluntad de crecer, una vasta curiosidad y un propósito común.
Today, this morning, let us begin our time together with openness, willingness to grow, rich curiosity, and a common purpose.
Que así sea. Amén y amén y bendiciones.
May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. We're wondering if it's noise reduction that made that bounce so much, because it didn't do that last time we used it. I'm going to invite Marion to come on up, and she's going to help us light our chalice. This is Marion Honnell Wilson, who is the lead of our 8th Principle project. Community happens when people of diverse racial, ethnic, and educational, class, gender, abilities, and sexual orientation, backgrounds, identities come together in an interdependent relationship of love, mutual respect, and care. Do you want to finish the end of it? We have lit our chalice to honor the shared commitment to the building the beloved community in a world where justice is truly for all. Now I invite Pam and Reverend Katie are going to do our story.
Good morning. It is so great to have the kids with us today. Finally, after like 2 years. Yay! So our story today is the pictures are going to be projected on that screen, so our friends can come up a little closer if they want. They could sit in the front row, or they can stay with their moms and dads. It's whatever they want to do. And our story today is called Wanda's Roses. All right, so there's Wanda. And one morning in the spring, on the way to school, Wanda noticed a bush growing in an empty corner lot. It was surrounded by trash and heaps of junk. It must have been growing for a while because it was about 2 feet tall. And Wanda was surprised that she hadn't noticed it before. But there it was, bare and thorny. And Wanda, who loved beautiful things, felt her heart beat faster. A rose bush, she said to herself, my very own rose bush. Now, the rose bush didn't really belong to Wanda, but since nobody seemed to own the lot or the heaps of junk that were piled there, she decided to care for this bush and make it her own. All during school that day, she thought about her rose bush. During art, she drew pictures of what it would look like in bloom. And during library, she borrowed books on arranging flowers. And during science, she asked so many questions about how to take care of roses that finally her teacher said that she must really stop asking questions about roses and start thinking about electricity, which is what the lesson was really about. On her way home from school, she rushed to the rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. Maybe it needs some more sun, thought Wanda. So she put down her school bus and she began dragging some of the nearby trash out to the curb. Mrs. Turner, who was on her way to the store, stopped to help her with a broken chair.
Cleaning up the neighborhood, Wanda? That's a nice project for you.
Oh, I'm not just cleaning, said Wanda. I'm helping my rose bush to get more sun so it will bloom.
Your rose bush? Where is your rose bush? Yes.
It's over there.
Oh, Wanda, I'm not sure that's a rose bush.
Sure it is. I've seen rose bushes in books, and this is what they look like just before they bloom. You just wait. In a few weeks, this lot will be full of roses.
Well, good luck. And as she walked away, Mrs. Turner thought to herself, if that's a rose bush, then I'm the Queen of England.
The next day after school, Wanda hurried to her rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. Maybe it needs more air, thought Wanda. So she put down her school bag and she began taking more trash to the curb. Once I get all this trash out of here, nothing will block the air from getting to my rose bush.
Mr. Claudel was on his way home from work and saw Wanda trying to drag an old door and stopped to help her. Cleaning up the neighborhood, are you, Wanda?
Oh, I'm not just cleaning, Mr. Claudel. I'm getting rid of trash so that my rose bush will get more air.
A rose bush? Here? I don't know much about gardening, Wanda, but I don't think that's a rose bush.
Sure it is. And in a few weeks, this lot will be filled with the sweetest smelling roses you've ever seen. Thank you for your help. I will finish cleaning up this trash.
If that's a rose bush, then I'm the King of France.
Every day after school, that week and the next week, Wanda worked in the empty lot. Mrs. Giamoni, who lived in the apartment next door, gave Wanda trash bags for the old shoes and bottles and broken toys and bits of glass that she was picking up.
You've done a great job cleaning up this lot.
Oh, I'm not just cleaning. I have to get rid of all this trash so that my rosebud bush will get enough sun and fresh air to bloom.
But where is your rose bush?
It's right there.
That's not a rose bush.
Oh, but it is. And in a few weeks, this lot will be filled with the most beautiful roses you've ever seen.
That would be nice. But I don't want you to be disappointed if the rose bush doesn't bloom.
Oh, don't worry. I won't be disappointed.
This is not a rose bush, and never will be one, she thought to herself.
The next week, when the rose bush still wasn't blooming, Wanda talked to her school librarian. I need some books about how to get roses to bloom.
Do you have a rose bush, Wanda?
Yes, but it doesn't have any flowers yet, and I know it has enough sun and fresh air.
Well, someone really wise told me once that you need to water plants. Does it have enough water?
Water, of course. That will make it bloom. So that afternoon, she hurried to her rose bush. It was still
bare and thorny.
Don't worry, little bush. I'll get you some water, and then you'll be able to grow flowers. So Wanda went across to the butcher shop. Mr. Sanchez, would you please give me some water for my rose bush?
Rose bush? Is that what I see you taking care of and talking to every day out there, Wanda? Are you sure that's a rose bush?
Yes, I'm sure. But it can't bloom because it needs water.
I really hope that's a rose bush, Wanda.
You'll see. In a few weeks, that whole lot will be
full of roses.
Every day, Wanda ran to her rose bush after school. But every day, it was the same thing. Still bare and thorny. She watered it. She sang to it. She checked its bare branches for roses. Mrs. Turner, on her way to the butcher shop, stopped to see if there were any roses yet. Mr. Claudel, on his way home from work, stopped to see if there were any roses yet. Mrs. Giamani, seeing Wanda in the lot, called down from her apartment to ask if there were any roses yet. When Wanda went to the library at school, Mrs. Jones asked if there were any roses yet. And every day, when Wanda went to the butcher shop for water, Mr. Sanchez asked if there were any roses yet. To each person, Wanda would answer the same thing. Just wait, pretty soon, this whole lot will be filled with roses. And then, one day in June, Wanda had an idea. Looking at the bare thorny bush, she said, "If my rose bush won't give me roses, I'll just have to give roses to my rose bush." And when she saw Mrs. Turner, Mr. Claudel, Miss Giamani, Miss Jones, and Mr. Sanchez, she gave each of them an invitation that said, "Please come for tea and muffins in Wanda's Rose Garden, Saturday morning at 9 o'clock.
Oh dear, said Mrs. Turner. Is she still expecting to get roses from that rose bush? Oh no, said Mr. Claudel, and she's worked so hard too. Oh my, said Mrs. Giamoni, she'll be so disappointed. Oh darn, said Mr. Sanchez. There must be something I can do. Oh good, said Miss Jones, the helpful librarian, who'd only heard about the bush from Wanda and hadn't seen it yet herself. I'll bring the muffins.
And the next morning at 9, everyone was surprised to see Wanda's rose bush covered with roses. Paper roses that Wanda had made herself and carefully tied to each bare and thorny branch. But more surprising yet, everyone who came to the party had brought along a rose bush to plant near Wanda's, except for Mrs. Jones, of course, who had brought the delicious blueberry muffins. After they had eaten their muffins and drunk their tea, they all got busy planting rose bushes. Mr. Claudel and Mrs. Turner dug the holes. Mrs. Giamani held the bushes in place while Wanda and Mrs. Jones filled the holes around the roots with soil, and Mr. Sanchez brought the water from his shop and watered them all thoroughly. When the work was finished, Mr. Claudel said,
Wanda, this is going to be a rose garden fit for a king. Or a queen, said Miss Turner.
And later that summer, the whole lot was filled with the biggest, most sweet-smelling, beautiful roses that anyone had ever seen, just as Wanda had always said it would be. The end. Now I am pleased to announce that the young people can follow me over to the other building for their classes.
And as those that are young at heart are following Pam to their classes, please enjoy this wonderful hymn. For all that is our life.
I invite you now into a space of stillness. Put your feet on the ground. Allow your shoulders to drop. Take a deep breath in, and then a relaxing, releasing breath out. We hold this space for all the intentions that are resting on your heart this morning. Breathe in silence for just a moment. Remember, you are water. Of course, you leave salt trails. Of course, you are crying. Flow. P.S. If there happens to be a multitude of griefs upon you, individual and collective, fast or slow, small or large, add equal parts of these considerations. That a broken heart can cover more territory. That perhaps love can only be as large as grief demands. That grief is the growing up of the heart that bursts boundaries, like an old skin or a finished life. if something has arisen inside you this morning and you'd like to come up and light a candle, you're welcome to do so at this time. You can say a few words or simply return to your chair.
Hi, I'm Dave. The story reminds me of my uncle who cleaned up the railroad right-of-way across the street from his house. And now that railroad right-of-way is a city park, and they named it after my uncle.
I'm lighting a candle for our friend Jean, who is up at Park Place in Elmhurst. He's not in the room, though, that was in News and Notes. He's actually moved into an assisted living unit for now, so, and I don't remember what number the room is now, but Chris Haney has his number, I have his number, Mary Getty probably has his number, and Jane Folzer, I think, knows how to reach him. So just thinking the poor guy who moved into the room he was in is probably getting a lot of phone calls, so I think we want to try and keep that to a minimum.
I don't know if I can do two things at once the way Suzanne just did. It's not easy to light a candle at the same time as your yeah, I could use some help, Reverend Pam. Thank you so much. I'm Jonathan. I just wanted to say a prayer for the people of Ukraine.
We light our 3 final candles today, one for all those intentions which are too tender to be spoken aloud. Please do share with somebody so somebody can help share your load. One for all of our leaders, that they remember where we are, who we are connected to, and who they actually serve. And then finally, for this church, which walks with us in our struggles and in our joys, and helps us get through each period of life. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jane. Now is the time in our service when we say thank you. So each of us brings of our own work to make the world a little bit better place. And so today, Nancy Krantz has been nominated to say thank you to. Nancy Krantz has just created such amazing logos for this church over the years. I know all of you have seen and appreciated them, and she selflessly volunteers her talent and her expertise in not only the logos, but in wonderful Facebook posts, and she's been active in the annual pledge drive for as long as I can remember, always lending a hand, always helping us get things done. So make sure you say thank you to Nancy when you see her, and if you think of someone who we should say thank you to, please let me know, send me an email, and we'll put them on the list. Now, out of a place, if you're at home, you can type something that someone or somebody or something that you're grateful for onto the chat lines. Out of a place of gratitude and fullness, we bring our own gifts to this church community. We work together to make the world just a little bit better place. And so now is the time when we share of our own blessings to help make that happen. As you might have noticed last week, the recipient that our Share the Plate recipient is My Block, My Hood, My City. If you didn't get to give money last time, you can write social justice on your check, or if you're at home, you can go to www.hinsdaleunitarian.org, click on the donate button, and you could either offer your pledge or you can offer for the social justice. Now, right now, I invite everybody to say our offering words together. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, and the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with the people around us, and with all the world. Thank you so much for what you do for these blessings. Thank you, Jamie. Here's a response called I Believe.
Only love has the power to turn us back from destruction. I choose to believe, no matter how much doubt's around. I choose to believe. Choose to see open possibilities in everyday challenges, knowing full well we might drown in them. I choose to believe, no matter how much doubt's around. I choose to believe. Through human love we can breed a new world. In the darkest nights, the brightest day, we can bring love back to our world. I choose to believe, no matter how much doubt's around. I choose to believe. I choose to believe. I choose to believe, no matter how much doubt's around. I choose to believe. I choose to believe.
So powerful. Our reading now is from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair, I say to you today, my friends. And so, even though we face difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words interposition and nullification, one day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of mountains of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. Thus ends the reading.
Because this campaign is paying homage to the old and the new, we think about the then and the now of a movement. We're bridging the gap between 1968 and 2018, which is 50 years of just revolution and 50 years of activism. So we also incorporated a new part that incorporates hip-hop, a little hip-hop aspect to it, so to bring the old with the new. So when we get to that, we'll teach you how the words flow and go.
So your words are first, everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Because everybody has a right to live. You got that?
You got that.
All right.
And so then the second part will be everybody's got a right to live, and then you all will say to live. And then everybody's got a right to love.
To love.
Everybody's got a right to dream.
To dream.
Everybody's got a right to learn.
To learn.
Got it? All right.
Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. To live. Everybody's got a right to dream. To dream. Everybody's got a right to love. To love. Everybody's got a right to learn. To learn. Everybody's got a right to live. To live. Everybody's got a right to do. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to
That is just a small taste of what it's like to be in the presence of the theomusicologists of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, where the Poor People's Campaign group and those of us who are partners are doing the work of still trying to bring the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's dream of a just and equitable world for all into being. The Reverend Dr. William Barber, whom some of you may remember from a General Assembly a few years back, and the Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris are co-leaders of this effort to bring about a third reconstruction that they say will, quote, simultaneously deal with the interlocking injustices of systemic racism, poverty, ecological devastation, and the denial of health care, militarism, and the distorted moral narrative of religious nationalism. Reverend Barber is clear in stating that these injustices are pandemics occurring on top of the COVID pandemic. They have existed before COVID, are worse than ever, and will continue after the pandemic if we do not gather together in Washington, D.C. and in capital cities across our land on June 18th, 2022 to tell our leadership enough is enough. So I bring you tidings from the D.C. metro area congregations where we are deeply steeped in this work because we are also steeped in doing the work of the eighth principle. Our congregation, All Souls DC, graciously provided that service, that song, Spirit of Life, Fuente de Amor in Spanish, for today's service with a hug and a thank you virtually, even though we cannot be together in space. Something we're all familiar with this time, but we are a part of a larger movement, and All Souls DC is the home of Paula Cole-Jones, who for 20 years has tirelessly been trying to clear the lot around the rosebush that is our faith, so that we can live into the eighth principle. And I wanted to bring the Poor People's Campaign to you today as part of this conversation because the movement is about fusion politics. It is a manifestation of Dr. King's dream. It is proof of the power and possibility that can come when strangers meet. The Poor People's Campaign, like our congregations, is a complex network of people with different views. And in the Poor People's Campaign, when we have a meeting, we choose to connect across our vulnerabilities and speak deep truths, working to move to the center the voices of those who've been historically marginalized, to understand where our personal privilege may intersect with the oppression of another, so that we can intentionally build solidarity movements. The Poor People's Campaign offers a bit of a roadmap, albeit slightly wandery, to embodying the eighth principle and to becoming beloved community. The Poor People's Campaign represents beauty, possibility, power, and all of the messiness and conflict that comes with living into beloved community. The group planning process is loud. And as I mentioned, it requires centering the voices of the marginalized. And even amidst all of the noise of our voices, there's this sense of deep listening and care. The work demands that we continue to meet not just each other, but also ourselves as strangers, doing deep reflections as we build relationship. It means leaning into tensions, not to prove that we alone are right or have the answers, that someone is wrong or we are more right, but to understand what tension is trying to tell us about what is seeking to emerge in the lot that is our lives. The congregation that I serve is one of the 155 congregations to pass the eighth principle. I am one of the few Black, Indigenous, people of color minister teams in the United States that is able to thrive and do multicultural ministry. My senior colleague, Ndagijamanna, and I have been in this work together for 5 years, and to our knowledge, we are the only team of BIPOC ministers to serve a large congregation for 5 years. That is a commentary on our faith movement. But I'm delighted to be here to talk to you about great things and hard things and possibilities. Like most religious communities, Unitarian Universalism has been shrinking for decades. Pew Research has been giving us surveys every year to tell us this, and there's a lot of reasons for this decline. Today I want to lift up what Dr. King said 60 years ago, that Sundays are, quote, the most segregated hour in America, end quote. Based on the demographics of our Unitarian Universalist congregations, this terrible truth remains valid. And since the United States is increasingly multicultural and families are increasingly multiracial, I can say with certainty that low diversity is one of the reasons that we are declining. Again, our faith tradition is like Wanda's rosebush, dying in a vacant lot, becoming more forgotten with each year. This is truth. Theologian James Cone once stated that, indeed, our survival and liberation depend upon our recognition of the truth when it is spoken and lived by people. Truth, he says, is divine action entering our lives and creating the human action of liberation. So let's have truth set us free today. I'm going to say some things from a place of faith and love in the hopes of co-liberation. And I hope that what we've learned at Cedar Lane can help you along the path in embodying the 8th principle. And as we're in relationship today, if you notice any feelings coming up for you, I invite you to pay attention to them. Oftentimes in our Unitarian Universalist movement, we talk a lot about things, but we don't always get into our feelings, and that leads to hyper-intellectualization and suppressed feelings that show up in unhealthy and destructive ways in our personal lives, in our communities, in our justice work, and in the larger world. So today, let's be with our feelings. And if you notice anger rising up, know that sometimes anger is there because we've had enough of being marginalized. Sometimes anger is an expression of grief or loss, guilt, or even shame. And if shame comes up, I invite you to think about what storyteller, researcher Brené Brown says. Guilt tells us that we did something bad. And we all make mistakes and do bad things sometimes. Shame, on the other hand, tells us that we are bad. You cannot be bad. You cannot be inherently bad. Our theology as Unitarian Universalists teaches us that we are all inherently good, we are all inherently worthy. So if that self-destruct button comes up for you today or going forward, I invite you to remember our Universalist roots. And as we make mistakes together, we have covenant that can hold us together in accountable relationship. So as we move through this process and going forward, remember your covenants with each other, with other Unitarian Universalists, and with the relationships that we make with others. When our buttons are pressed, lean in, breathe into them, explore the tensions, and seek to be in right relationship with those we are in conversation with. Quick word on putting care first. Our late co-moderator, Alandria Williams, used to encourage us to do this work, whether we were in small meetings or at the great General Assembly that we have each year. And care first does indeed mean to notice your feelings and also to be sure to center care for the most marginalized person in the room, in the conversation, to ensure that their voice is being heard. Now here's the good news in this work and in our faith. I've already hinted at our saving Universalist principle that we are uniquely worthy of love. We are uniquely good, and each person that we meet is deserving of love, even when we don't agree with them. Our work is to utilize covenant to find a way to navigate those tensions, to create equitable and just change in the world. And you know what? We are uniquely positioned to do this work. We are the free-thinking, science-loving people, aren't we? Yes! These spiritual, quote, nuns, that's N-O-N-E-S, in case you're wondering, the nuns and the spiritual but not religious cohorts are looking for us. In fact, some of them even wander through our doors, and we do let them know that we are the perfect home for people with all abilities, documentation statuses. If you're multiracial, if you have a multigender family, LGBTQIA families, multi-religious families, we are a home. Theologically, that's what we embrace. And people come in and they don't stay. What are we doing wrong? History teaches us that dominant culture is thriving in our midst, silencing voices of the marginalized, sometimes with the inaccessibility of our buildings, sometimes the inaccessibility of our bathrooms, including not having all-gender restrooms. Sometimes it's silencing voices in meetings or pushing people off to the side when they're trying to tell us something. And historically, one of the big schisms that we've had in our faith was in the 1960s, when the entire Black caucus walked out of General Assembly and most never returned. Looking at our professional leadership, religious leaders and religious professionals that are people of color, and I'm talking at all staff levels, we remain as rare as faces in the pew. More and more youth are leaving and not coming back, and we can do better. And one of the ways that we can do better is by learning to apply the 8th principle in everything that we do, and to begin to break down the silos in our congregations, the protectiveness around our particular interests and issues, and realize that if we want to get anywhere, we need to work together. We need to build solidarities. We need to build strong relationships with people who are affected, listen to what they are trying to tell us, and continue to work with them, journeying beside or behind, but certainly not in front, as we do this work of change as one solid body. And if you're wondering why we even need an 8th principle if we're not doing so hot on the other 7, look, they're all aspirational. Our principles are aspirational. They are a guidepost. They are meant for us to look to and try to continually work towards every single day. And when we mess up, this is where our covenant comes in. Not as, you know, like those old cartoons, we want 1 lump or 2, and the giant hammer comes out. That's not what covenant is. Covenant is, gosh, we agreed to be a certain way together, and I feel like we're not in that way right now. How can we be in better relationship? Or oops, I'm sorry that what I said hurt you. I'm not exactly sure why it's bad, but you're hurt, and I'm not gonna process with you right now. I'm gonna find somebody else to process. Can we check in later? Because I wanna talk to you about this. You mean something to me. That is how covenant works, and that is how we go forward. We do need to change in fundamental ways. In this time, we know more clearly than ever that change is happening. Church has fundamentally changed. The way we are together, the world has changed as we have navigated this collective trauma of COVID-19. And it will continue to change. And while our hearts yearn for the before times, our work is to know, who are we now? What can we learn from the past so that we can build a different future? And the only way we're going to be able to get there together and sustainably, let me tell you, is with daily spiritual practice, individually, and even doing collective spiritual practice each Sunday in worship. But it is our individual spiritual practice that will sustain us, whether that spiritual practice is reading, getting out in nature, meditating, cooking, or something else that helps you experience a sense of awe and wonder at something larger than you, so that you may have a peaceful place to go inside of yourself as we have these difficult conversations and navigate change, as we do this work of dreaming and living the dream put forth by Dr. King. You know, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, our UUA president, says, "This is no time for a casual faith." She's been saying it for years. And I encourage you, when your spirit is flagging, when you feel tired, when you're frustrated and you're wondering, when will we finally get there, wherever there is, I invite you to hold her words in your heart. This is no time for a casual faith, and we must continue forward because everyone does have a right to live. And if you watch the COVID numbers growing each day, notice who is being affected most. People of color, poor people, and people with disabilities. And when those of us who have more privilege, whether it is class or ability or something else, when we stop moving forward, more people die. The hope comes with the early adopters, like Dave. Was it your uncle who cleared those tracks? There you are, Dave. Just like Wanda. Someone who can see the possibility, whether it's in tracks or in a rose bush that is in a vacant lot. Someone who keeps going, keeps believing in spite of all of the doubts, determined to see that something else can live. Something good can come from even the most humble of spaces. And as these wonderful early adopters keep moving in this work of embracing the eighth principle, maybe those of us who sometimes are on the sidelines, willing to offer a pail or drag a door or a chair out of that lot and question things a little bit, maybe we'll start to come along too, and we'll start to care. And you know what? Before we know it, we are all amidst the blooms and the thorns and the messiness of beloved community. We can make this dream a reality. We can save each other. We can save the planet. I encourage you, and we'll be cheering for you from DC as you continue this work with the Eighth Principle Project. Remember that you are a part of a larger movement, and as you go forward, you are never alone. Que así sea. Amen. And blessed be.
So much, Katie. We are going to extinguish our chalice, this flame, and I invite you to say our words together, but I'm just going to offer the reminder that after the service, Marion Hannah-Wilson and Reverend Karen Mooney are going to stay, and if you want to have a deeper conversation, any questions you have about the eighth principle, you can stay and have a conversation with her. And if you're online, there is a link on our website that you could sign into to join that conversation as well. So I invite say our words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world.
I wanted to apologize to some for not wearing a mask while I play. My glasses fog up and I can't read the music, so I apologize for that. Thank you.